Može komunikacija? Dobar dan, draga publiko, nastavljam s programom po rasporedu. S nama je Nana EKVTIMISHVILI, znala sam da ću teško izgovoriti prezime, iako smo razgovarali malo čas eto, i o prezimenu. S njom razgovor vodi Ivana Goljanin. Radi se o romanu Polje, kruške. Gruzijska spisateljica je zapravo i režiserka, te je dobitnica nagrade za najbolji film Srce Sarajeva, a film je naslova U procvatu. Tako da je lijepo ugostiti ponovo u istome gradu spisateljicu kao i autoricu upravo na festivalu Bukstan. A upravo njezini turbulentni politički događaji, angažmani, demonstracije jako su obilježili njezin roman o kojem ćemo danas govoriti i mislim da ćemo u razgovoru otkriti na koji su način oni vidljivi u romanu. Evo, prepuštam mikrofon Ivani.
Hvala Petra. Zadovoljstvo mi je poželjeti dobrodošlicu gruzijskoj spisateljici i rediteljici Nani EKVTIMISHVILI, čiji je roman Polje, kruški preveden na bosanski jezik i objavljen u izdavačkoj kući Bajbuk. I'm delighted to welcome Nana EKVTIMISHVILI here on the first day of the festival, whose novel The Pear Field was translated into Bosnian by Lejla Đanko and it was published in Bajbuk. This is your debut novel, but it was first published in 2015, as I remember, and it was included in Booker List in 2021. But this is not your first time, as Petra said, in Sarajevo. You won a Heart of Sarajevo and Sarajevo Film Festival. Now we are here to talk about your book, which is focusing on the life of abandoned children and teenagers in Tbilisi in the 90s. In a school, this school was a home for children with intellectual disabilities, or as the locals called it, the school for idiots. You wrote a novel that showed us horrors that happened in Tbilisi in the 90s. You showed us the world, the shocking picture that Georgian society faced in the years after the Soviet Union collapsed. The main character of your novel is Lejla, an 18-year-old who stays in the school after finishing school and takes care of other children. Lejla does not remember where she was born or who her parents are. I read somewhere that you plan to make a documentary about this particular theme, because you grew up next to the orphanage. You had a close contact with those children. How did you manage to be emotionally distanced from this subject? How was your process of writing? How was? Yeah, you understand me.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and first of all, thank you for inviting me. Many thanks to my publisher Bajbooks and Bukstan. It's for a Georgian writer who is writing books in Georgian. It's a big thing and big issue, translated into other languages, and I'm very happy that I'm today here, and thank you for the moderating this conversation. I will start a little bit earlier and talk and want to say something about my connection to this wonderful city, Sarajevo. So I came to Sarajevo for approximately 10 years ago, first time. I immediately fell in love with the city, and my first movie directed with my partner Simon Gross won a Heart of Sarajevo, and our two young actresses won also Heart of Sarajevo for best acting. So I remember that time like a really a big day in my life, holding these three hearts with our actresses together and going back to Tbilisi, and we had interviews, and people, journalists came, and they wanted to know what happened and how and what kind of importance it had it for us. And I wrote also a blog for Radio Liberty, not a blog, it was a diaries for Radio Liberty. They asked me to write, and I describe very precisely my emotion to this day and this event. So yeah, and it's so nice. After 10 years, I'm here with my first book, and yeah, how it was writing this book. I was born in Tbilisi, in Georgia, and our home, where I spent my childhood, the first 16 years maybe. I was raised with those children, I can say, because we had one fence, and this school was next to our house. And it was for me quite normal seeing this kind of things, what I describe. And I was not seeing everything, I don't know, sexual crime or, but I was seeing how the neighbors, our neighbors, exactly. And you mentioned my documentary, so I was a teenager, and I was visiting art school at the time, and I decided with my sister and 2 other friends to make a documentary about this. But it was absolutely another approach as writing book or doing movie, because I was still child, and it was my school task doing something. And we started to visit this school with our teacher, camera teacher, and we shot a lot of material and so on. But it was so difficult for me hearing the stories and to decide what to do with this kind of stories, and what kind of, it was a Shevardnadze time after civil war in Tbilisi, and it was clear also that no TV channel would show this kind of material. So, and we failed, so we stopped. And many years
Then you
passed.
decided to write a book.
Yes, we moved from this place, and I went to Germany, and I studied dramaturgy and script writing, and then I came back, and then I decided to write a book. And one very important experience was when I came back. I saw at the streets of Tbilisi those children from the school, and they were adult women, mostly I saw women, and they were begging. And it was kind of shocking for me, because I knew them, and we had kind of, at least geographically, same childhood. And then after my study time, I came back, and I see that this kind of children have no future. Yeah. And they were at the street begging and asking for money, and and
Nothing much changed, yeah.
Nothing much
Those
changed.
years, yeah.
Even it became worse, the situation, because they were not in school, and they should somehow survive, and some of them had maybe own children, and this circle of
of this horrible life.
Life goes on and goes on, and then I was thinking, maybe I'm the really only one who can, we had also conversations with these children, and they were telling me things like, for example, for sexual abuse, one girl was telling me, or this scene in a peer field. This was also what I hear from the children there, and I was thinking maybe I'm the only one who knows this or who can talk about it. And I started to gather my memories, and I gave them shape. And okay, it's not a documentary book, it's a fictional book, but everything is there happened or could happen
Anywhere, yeah.
yeah.
All of your characters are victims of some kind of abuse. The one that is mentioned most often is the rape. You describe terrifying practice of raping newcomers in girls in their early teenage years, who these children would drag to a pear field and would hand over to a boy, and then he would rape them. What represents that field in some symbolic way in this novel? It's a horrifying practice, but what can you tell us more about that?
You're asking about Pierfield in the book, yeah. Actually, it has kind of symbolic effect in the book.
It does.
And it could be, but when I was writing this, it was a really kind of naturalistic and realistic description of the place, of this field, because I remember this field exactly like I describe in this movie. Sometimes real things are really surreal and not really believable, but it was like this field was filled with water and you could not see it, and in this field were pear trees with really not tasteful fruits, and of course we can compare this field with this kind of internet, this kind of school, and children.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah,
was the field in some symbolic way represents not only the school, but the whole Georgian society in those years. Everyone in the school was okay with everything happening there. Someone was raped and beaten up, and everybody was okay with that. Was that in some symbolic way representing the Georgian society, who is blindfolded for these things that happened in 90s?
Yeah, maybe I don't know if it fits exactly to George.
Critic reviews mentioned that, so I was wondering maybe.
I would say maybe for whole Georgia it's not really representative, but it's representative for Soviet countries.
In those years.
Soviet countries and Soviet societies in former Soviet countries, how they treat weak people, or people in need, or people with disabilities. Yeah, that's for sure, yes.
What is your sense of the present state in Georgia, given that you live and work there? What was the reception of your book in Georgia? How many people today know about these things that happened in the past?
I think awareness of those things is high now, and because time changed, and a lot of organization and human rights organization and NGOs and a lot of people who have eye on this problem, and also language kind of changed, because in my childhood it was normal to call this school like school of idiots, and this children idiots or debiles. But now it's definitely not the case to use this kind of language what discriminates
That's a good thing,
people.
yeah. Let's talk more about the book specifically. The suspense in the novel builds from Leila's, the main character, thoughts about murdering the vice principal and history teacher who has been abusing girls, including herself. The other storyline is about Irakli, a boy who waits an American family to be adopted. And how did you manage to balance these two storylines? Can you tell us more about the relation between these two characters? Who is Leila? Who is Irakli in this?
Yeah, Leila is the main character. She's 18 years old, and as you said, she finished the school. But normally, this kind of schools in Soviet Union was like that. That after finishing the school, a state should offer you something, a working place or job or living place. But you know, we are talking about Georgia in 90s, and Georgia in 90s, as whole Georgia was collapsed. And at the time, I remember that we had even no food at home and no electricity, no gas, no nothing, and we were struggling. And I remember also when you were talking, when you was talking about this kind of problems and about those children, people were saying, normal people have no problems, and this not normal people, it's logical that they have also problems. It was like they were not considered as a normal people. Yeah, we were really struggling, and it was no space for let's say no one to see this problem. Yeah, and and Leila finished the school, and she can't go anywhere. And she decided to stay there, and she gets also a kind of job for kind of parking. They have a parking space, and she's managing to. She's working for this parking for almost very little money.
She's also helping the kids.
Yeah, she's also
make
helping.
it through. Yeah.
Yeah, and Irakli is a boy, 10 years old or something like that, and he is Leila somehow at some point decides to help him to escape this situation, and the best thing could happen in Leila's what could Leila imagine? It is adopting that family from US could adopt Irakli.
That's the only way out for all of the children.
Yeah,
it's to be adopted.
Yeah, but the question is, what is home for this kind of children? The understanding of home, because they have no home, no parents, and but still in such kind of circumstances, these children were able to feel at home, and this kind of home feeling creates also Leila for Irakli. Yeah.
I've mentioned before that the only way out for those children is to be adopted. You're writing about this social issue that is international adoption, and those children are the families from the West want to adopt those children. What the West, at some as some reference point, mean in this novel? What does the West mean in Georgia today, and what does the West meant in the 90s?
West, that was a good question. In the 90s, what was the West? West was like,
Utopia, maybe?
yeah, almost not existing part of the earth that, okay, maybe in movies we can see West and kind people from West, but in 90s it was no sign of hand or no sign of actually I was going to a very good school in I was lucky to attend a good school in Tbilisi my last 3 years. It was this kind of art college, and I was in it was an international exchange project, and 1996 I had also this international exchange. I was part of international exchange project, and I was in USA in Tennessee with some of my friends, and yeah, it was kind of science fiction, I can say. And now, so let me say that in this book, Western world was not mentioned like a like a, to practice some critique on. No, it is just nonsense of the gap between Georgia and the Western world, and somehow maybe they want to help us, they want to give us a hand and save us.
Do they?
But you mean in 90s or today? In the 90s, yeah. But there was not enough knowledge about Georgia, so we were kind of country. Most famous man of Georgia was Stalin. So people really. So when I was first time in US, and people were telling me either Stalin or Shevardnadze. This was only two famous personalities from Georgia, and. Yeah, now
they're not the only people in Georgia.
But now I would say we slowly develop the political idea to getting closer to Europe. Not because this is our wish or wish of good life or something, because I think because of values inside of Georgian society and in art and in literature. And if you see all the pieces of the literature, you can find values about even ideas about gender issues or human tolerance, and this kind of all the questions which are today very urgent and very important. It's not new for Georgia. Yeah.
Speaking about gender and speaking about feminism in your book, Lela is a very brave kid. Are you? What does it mean to be brave in writing?
In writing?
Yeah.
It is to have to write things what are...
In a way you describe it in your book.
Yeah.
You're talking about a lot of social issues I've mentioned before.
Yeah.
It's about child and women abuse. It's about poverty. It's about international adoption. It's about the things that you don't write about it most of the time. So I think that's what it takes to be brave. To write about those things.
Yes, yeah, but I think, yes, I agree. But I wanted to say that to be brave in writing is for me to write things what you really don't want to write, what you are afraid for, or you shame for it. This kind, the feeling of the shame. It's a very important thing in writing, and things you want to put away. And yeah,
Was this the thing while you were writing this novel? Did you feel the shame? Did you feel the fear? What did you feel while you were writing this book?
Not because of the topic, not at all, because topic is somehow, for the literature, very conventional topic. So the women writer is writing about children and their rights or their fate or something. But I think it was
maybe not this explicitly. Yeah, you're describing some very raw and scary raping practices in your novel. There's a lot of
also
realistic scenes.
I would say for me was most not challenging, but for me personally was most brave thing to name the street like a real name, a real city. It was not a fiction, not a science fictional novel or abstract place or abstract. It is mentioned on the first page, Tbilisi, and the street, and it puts me as a writer on the place. You know, they know the Georgians or whoever reads the book. So I was born in this place, this ugly place in Tbilisi, and I did not want to avoid this point, and I put it on the first page.
These children are predestined to be children who no one trusts. And what happens when someone in the school is raped or beaten? Nothing at all. I've mentioned that before. Why? Is because it happened in the place everyone looked with contempt, or was it because we are used to the violence now or then? And what's your opinion on that topic?
Actually, when the book was released, 2015, the director, the head of this internat, the woman, was the same director as in these previous years and 90s. And one German journalist said to me that she visited this internet and brought her this book. I don't know how the story went on.
What did she say?
I did not have a contact with her, but I remember her, and I remember also when I was a teenager and was talking to her and asking her question for our documentaries, and she was like, I guess she really did not know what was happening.
Really?
It was, of course, she knew, but for her it was normal. For example, this part in the book where she is talking about girls who have sexual experience outside of internet, she was telling it to me, to us. She can't control that.
Girls are doing.
What girls are doing when they are out of school, and when they are getting presents from people in neighborhood, and she can't control it, and it's normal because they are now kind of big girls and they need this kind of experience or something. It's unbelievable, but for her it was a normal thing,
yeah.
and no responsibility that no knowledge about it, that she's responsible for every single thing what happened there and in life of these children. But also the thing, no one was controlling this. no
Yeah, you
police
described
or no state. It was like a forgotten land, and everything could happen. And yeah,
Yeah. Talking about that, your book, I told you before, is very cinematographic, which did not surprise me. It reminded me of a Mexican movie, Tigers Are Not Afraid, from 2017, which follows a group of orphan children in Mexican drug mafia neighborhoods. Have you ever thought about making a movie based on this book before you started to write this book?
no, no. And even after I wrote the book, I have really no intention to make a film out of it, because in literature you can balance every horrible thing with a language. You can still you can have light inside, and you can, yeah, let's say you can balance it. But if you one-to-one you will show in a movie, you can, but it's not my cinematic taste if I would show it on the screen. So
What would you do? What would you do if you were showing this story on the screen? You as a
I would rewrite.
director.
I would rewrite, and I would adapt to a cinema language. I agree that it's cinematic, and it's maybe my cinema influence
Yeah, definitely it is.
come into the language.
And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, but see it on the screen, it's not really my taste in a cinema, because I like in a cinema,
What do you like? Let's talk
Kind
more
of-
about the cinema.
yeah, kind of lightness. You can also, yeah, we have also rape, and we have also this kind of abuse in my first film, In Bloom, which was shown in Sarajevo 10 years ago. But still, it's not. This movie is about the friendship and about
mainly the friendship,
girls' love to each other. And visual art, in my opinion, needs
But the social
kind of
context,
lightness.
It's kind of same maybe. The social,
yeah,
it's
topics and social context. And I'm just talking about the aesthetics. The heavy things in literature does not work for me one-to-one in a
cinema,
in a cinema.
cinematic language. Yeah. You wrote this book a long time ago. Do you think that you could have done something different in terms of style, character, storyline? Have you ever thought about that?
Honestly, I don't think about it. Maybe when I was thinking, maybe I would have some ideas or thoughts, but this topic is kind of closed, and I went to another things and to another topics, and because it's you need such a power and so much work that one thing you finished one thing, a book or film, and since it's done, I don't think about it anymore. What could be
How well was your book received in Georgia back in the days when it came?
I think it was received very good. So if you talk about critics in literature and in academical crisis, it had attention, and it won some literature prizes in Georgia. But this is not light. This is a still heavy subject, and I can't say. So what is the success of the book? Numbers of selling exemplars, or if I am talking, I remember some good personal feedbacks
Yeah.
from readers, and this is most important thing for me. But yeah, overall,
What did
it
the
has
people say about?
most interesting thing was for me the reaction of my neighbors and my family. Reaction of the people who really knew this internet and even these protagonists. And they said to me that the book helped them to see this whole thing as a kind of new thing, but not completely new, with a strong connection with the past. And yeah.
Is Georgia today facing those things more directly? Is Georgia society, people prepared to face the past?
I think yes. It's the only way to move on. It's to look at the past and to reflect things. And I think it's even though we have now pro-Russian government and politically it's very hard for us, but still I have trust in Georgian society, and yeah.
Good things are happening, yeah. I wanted to ask you something, but I forgot. Are you writing something new, maybe a new novel, or perhaps working on a new movie?
Yeah, I'm writing scripts, one Georgian script and actually one also German script in process. And I'm writing a novel in Georgian language. Yeah, so I can tell you a lot of about my current life. It's filled with my life with my children and this kind of everyday stuff, and it's quite unusual for me sitting here and talking about my book, because last year's was for me like just being mother and
No books at all.
not enough time and space for it, and I really first time understand what's really what is it really being mother and doing things.
Creative work. Yeah. I remembered what I wanted to ask you. I'm not an expert about Georgian literature, not at all, but I'm interested in what's happening today in that field. What are you guys writing about?
Many women writers, very interesting ones, writing about their experience as a woman. So Georgia was in cinema or in literature very male dominated, so we see a lot of women now.
Same thing here.
Yeah. And what I experienced is that Georgian writers have right political opinion, and they're towards West and against of Soviet, let's say, reunion of Soviet Union and being again part of Russia. And this is what every single writer could sign immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Nana, thank you for coming and thank you for this lovely conversation that we had. Ako neko iz publike ima neko pitanje za Nanu, tu smo. Ako ne, autorica će potpisivati knjige u knjižari.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. If you have some questions, so I'm around or now or later, so I would be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.